All right, guys, welcome back to Crossman Productions. Man, it's been such a crazy week. I am so glad to be back on doing another show. It's been, but the last one we did was with Chris Adokwa, which was that was such an amazing show, and we got such a huge feedback from parents on that show. I never realized how many parents, I guess, had kids who have autism who kind of struggle with that, that whole thing. So, I want to thank Chris for being on last week. It was awesome. So this week, I'm bringing a new guy. His name is Steve Moon. Now, Steve was introduced to me by Ginger Cressman, and Ginger we've had on. And Ginger's been such an amazing person too. I mean, we've interviewed her, and then man, she's done a couple of films since we talked to her. She's been all over the place, and then she's also the one who introduced me to Ruben Gary Martinez, which was such an awesome interview. We love Ruben, so now we get to meet Steve. So I'm going to bring both Steve and Ginger on. How's it going, Steve?
Hello.
Oh, I'm blessed. First, I have to apologize for being in the car. It's my daughter's 26th birthday, so that kind of ages me. Actually, what's underneath this hat ages me. But
Right.
So they are having dinner inside, and it's too loud, so I thought I would come to the car and do the interview. How are you? And thank you, Ginger, for the introduction.
Yeah. Welcome.
Good.
I just said you're welcome. Hi.
So welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm really excited about having you on and getting to know you. Ginger, they sent me some information about you and some of the work that you're doing, and some of the projects that you're doing, that you've been working on. So I'm excited to get to know you as a person. That's kind of what we do. Get to learn your journey. And I'm super excited about having Ginger back on because we're going to talk to her a little bit too about some of the new stuff she's been working on. I've seen she's been all over the place. And not only that, but she just got to doing an interview with one of my friends, Anastasia Verkos, over in Australia. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about that. So Steve, why don't you kind of introduce yourself? Let us know, kind of tell us like where you were born and raised, and what was life like for Steve growing up?
Oh, born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, as far as Gump would say. Actually, I was born in a town called Fairfield, which Ginger and I just got through doing the movie Diamond in Fairfield because I wanted to be back in my hometown. But life was great. Life was fantastic. Normal upbringing, whatever that is today. We don't have normalcy anymore, but raised in a church. My dad was my baseball coach growing up for years. My mom was involved with everything that was going on with school, PTA, and things like that. My dad lost his job when I turned 13. He'd been my hero my whole life. He was a deacon at church, and he had to start working nights. So I went from seeing my dad every day. He's my coach and he's my mentor and he's doing everything for me, to where I don't see him anymore because he's now working from 4 p.m. till 4 a.m. But what's part of my testimony is we went to a church kind of in the inner city of Birmingham called Central Park Baptist Church, and we founded a Christian school called Central Park Christian School, but it only went up until the 8th grade. So I was a senior in the 8th grade, which was awesome. And then the next year they went to the 9th grade. So I was a senior again in the 9th grade, but that's when my dad lost his job. We couldn't afford private school anymore. So I went to a public school. But my headmaster there, he had students, 13-year-old students that are building the school. We're literally going to Birmingham Southern College with some of the deacons in church and loading up the van with chairs and library books. So I developed a relationship with Birmingham Southern and started going to their basketball camps. One thing about Central Park Christian School is it's no longer there. They retired the school about 2 years ago when the headmaster retired. No, it was about 5 years ago. But they were the number one basketball in the NACA, which is the National Association of Christian Athletes. nationwide, and they were the number one team for years. Because here's this white, lanky, tall, skinny. Sorry, Dr. Parker, if you're watching, but headmaster that starts a basketball program to where they're graduating players that are going straight into the NBA. So basketball was a big part of my life. My dad couldn't go to my games. My mom was a teacher and tired when she got home, so didn't go to my games. So then fast forward after that, moved out, went to Jacksonville State University for a while in Alabama, graduated UAB, started writing, and next thing you know, I meet people like Ginger and people like you. I can fill in the gap, but that's kind of so. It was a great childhood. Central Park was the biggest blessing to me, because even when I went to public school, I would go to all the Central Park basketball games and just show my love and support for them. And Dr. Parker, still to this day, is still a mentor to me. Just through he's still living, but just through thinking about what he did for all the kids at that church and that school, and just letting us be a part of it was. And that's why I give back. I also coach community basketball for like 20 years, and I like the underdogs. So anyway, that's a little bit about me.
Cool. So now, Ginger sent me your IMDb, so I was kind of looking through that, and I saw all the films that you've been working on. So how did you go from sports into the film industry? What kind of drew you into doing film?
Well, I did sports and film kind of at the same time. I played summer league basketball. The older I got, I still played ball, but started coaching community ball. And I had a day job where I was writing. I was doing commercials and things like that, but I did enjoy it. And so I wrote a script or a treatment, and I had about 9 different I'll go ahead and say this. I had a mini stroke about 7 years ago, so sometimes it takes me a while to find the word, and I'll probably start stuttering here in a little bit. But anyway, so I started writing. So I had 9 different agencies in Los Angeles that were representing my work. And so about 2 years later, in 1997, there was a movie that came out starring Howie Long called Firestorm. And I was like, that's my movie. That's what I wrote. And so I went to go see it in Birmingham at the theaters. The manager had me out there as a guest. He said, if this is really your movie, you can come out and watch it. So I watched it, and even though it was an action movie, it was still basically my script, my story. My story would have been more of a drama, because Ginger knows me, and I like dark more than I like action. And it was supposed to be kind of an homage to Smoke Jumpers. And the man who set the original Backfire in the 1950s, true story, he was literally being chased up the mountain by a fire. And these fires just burn like millions of acres just like that. And so he built a backfire. He stood on a rock, on a boulder, and built a backfire, and it consumed the rest of the oxygen. So he survived. And since then, I think his name was Dutch. And since then, they do backfires when smoke jumpers jump into the forest to put out fires. So I learned at that time that maybe God's talking to me, like, okay, you need to be doing something besides commercials. So fast forward, I had 2 years later, I'd gone through entertainment lawyers. Who are you going to sue? You're going to sue which agency? You don't even know which agency that happened. You don't know if it's a disgruntled employee. There's just no way to prove who did it. Right. So then fast forward 2 years, I met the director of Boys Don't Cry, Kimberly Pierce, and her director of photography. They gave me some tips on how to make movies. So I started doing independent films in Birmingham with local crew. And then from there, I started meeting. And then I had a premiere in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, of my first movie. And a lady from New York at the New York International Independent Film and Video Festival found me online. And she was like, Steve, I didn't know anybody in Alabama was making movies. I'm from Tuscaloosa. She was the liaison in New York. And she said, what I want to do is I want to introduce you to the business. So she hooks me up with people like George Clooney, Chris Rock, Jennifer Aniston, people in the business, Lionsgate, Anchor Bay Entertainment, my buddy Richie Salvatore. And then so Richie we started talking forever. He's a producer out in LA, and he introduces me to everybody. And at this point, you're in the business. Once you're in the business, you're in the business. Everybody knows everybody. And Alabama had passed a tax incentive of 35%. So basically, if you're the investor and you do a movie, every dime that you spend in Alabama, you get a 35% tax rebate at the end of the show. So Richie starts coming here. He goes to Mobile. He calls me. He's like, hey, Moon, come work with me on this show with Nicolas Cage. was like, okay, cool. Yeah, sure. Cause I can do that.
Right.
So yeah, I'm a nervous wreck at that point. You know, I'm doing prop master, but I'm also helping Richie. And this is the first time we'd ever met in person. And I was like, at the end of that show, I was like, look, Richie, we have a much more talented and experienced crew in Birmingham. Give my guys a shot. So now fast forward, you know, to almost current day, he gave Birmingham a shot, gave my crew a shot, and loved it and fell in love with it. So he starts calling his producers, and their friends, and they start coming to Birmingham and making their movies. So I didn't have to really travel anywhere to do what I love for a living. Now, I wasn't directing, but I was still directing my own independent films. But I'm learning because I'm on like John Travolta shows and I'm on Bruce Willis shows, and I'm like, I'm learning that everything that I'm doing and that my crew does, if it's a shortcut, it's the same shortcut that they're doing on big films, and you learn so much from it, and it makes you. I won't say I'm good, but it makes you better.
Right. So, you know, you went from doing, you know, independent films. You got to meet some of these big actors and big directors. How has that kind of changed for you? You know, in the ways of being able to get your films out.
The directors, not so much. You know, the director. I mean, everybody is just great. Like, I've made good friends with some of the actors because you treat people like they want to be treated, and especially the actors my age. It's like, you know, there's no fanboy stuff or anything like that. It's just a mutual respect. You're in the business. But as far as like producers, they're like, okay, this is what you have to do for distribution. Number one, you need pre-sales. To get pre-sales, you need somebody attached to it with a big name. But you learn all of that. So now, like, I have a Gary Oldman movie. I have a that I'm co-producing, and I just got a text from him just now, Ginger, from Stephen Downing. Anyway, so and then I have another one with Mickey Rourke and Heather Graham and Frank Grillo. And the way the business works, this is what I had to learn. Right. Is the first time Richie said, "What's your pre-sales?" I'm like, I don't know what that is. But now that was 15 years ago. But now pre-sales is I have a sales agent. I have several. And so I send her over the script who's attached, and then she'll go to the markets, which is like Berlin and Cannes and stuff like that, American film market. And she'll reach out to all of the buyers, which are all the overseas distributors. So now we have a film that's a $3.5 million show budget, and we have $7 million worth of sales estimates. It's different. There's a difference between sales estimates and pre-sales. Pre-sales, you've already sold it ahead of time. Sales estimates are like, oh, I think we'll give you this much for it. But then you take that, and it's called papered up. When you're papered up, you take those sales estimates and you go to the traditional investors that are out there, and they're like, oh wow, so $7 million in estimates, and you think you can make this for $3.5 million? Oh, then we're gonna make money already before the movie's even out. Right. So you learn stuff like that. But no, as far as like meeting cast and people with names and directors with names, it's just like meeting you. It's just like meeting Ginger. You know, it's everybody's regular people. They all do it for a living, and you're only as good as the last thing that you did. And you need to stay relevant. And what I've learned about IMDb is this. Two things about IMDb. I'm going to break people's hearts right now. If you have IMDb Pro, and you're an actor or an actress, they're going to give you this giant rating. You're going to be, look at me, my rating is high. It doesn't mean anything at all in the business. On the business side, they're not looking at that. It's just something to keep people for paying for IMDb Pro. It does have its benefits, but the benefit for IMDb is, and I wasn't insulting anybody. I think I just got a mean look right there because it's not an insult. No, it's not an insult. It's not. We're talking business. But no, as far as like IMDb, you want to stay relevant. I was going to say relative, because they're not really looking at your budget or what you've done. Yes, they are to a degree, but if they say, okay, well, you've worked with Bruce Willis, oh, that's great. We can trust you to work on whatever show's coming up. Right. But they also look, oh, wow, you've been consistently working for 20 whatever years. And yeah, but my last one was, a no budget film. They don't care. They just want to see that you're continually working. And so finally, lastly, to finish answering your question, is they're like, Moon, you can still distribute your work because you're putting out quality. And I don't mean that. I'm not quoting myself. I'm quoting other people. And as long as you do quality and you have quality talent, which I have exceptional talent in some of the films I do. I won't say which one or two that I've done with Ginger, but you put them out there, and because your name's already out there, they say, okay, well, we want to do this. So now I have a couple of films that are overseas. We had one that was theatrical, limited theatrical. I've got some that just got picked up that are now on Tubi and are on Amazon Prime. So yeah, so there you go. There's the nutshell right there. I know I said a lot.
So I think it's amazing because I deal with well, I'll say deal with, but I talk to people who have done both independent films and some who have done some working with big film production companies, and it seems like it's either one or the other. Either most of them, they're kind of stuck in the independent film, and which gives them more creativity, or they go to the big companies, and the companies kind of have control. But from you got to go from doing independent, working with the big companies. So doing that, do you still feel like that you like when you're doing your projects, do you still get control of your projects?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that because I'm going to plug Out of the Fight. That's my movie about veteran suicide. It's based on actual events. We spent 3 years researching it, interviewed over 200 families across the country, and everything that you watch in there actually happened. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Out of the Fight. Please watch it because it is changing lives. But here's what happened when we were talking to the distributors. The distributors were like, "Oh, well, that's not Hollywood. That's not how you sell a movie. We want to see your main character." Because the main character has a daughter in the film, but he's like, "Oh," the distributor's like, "Oh, you need to at the end of the movie have him go back to Afghanistan, and then he sees a girl that reminds him of his daughter, but she's wearing a bomb, and there's somebody on a cell phone, and he has to make up his mind whether he's going to shoot the kid, shoot the person with the phone, or commit suicide and just grab the kid and they all blow up together." I'm like, that doesn't happen. And if I do that movie, every veteran that I worked with for 3 years is going to say, "Moon, you sold us out." So, because my last name is Moon anyway. So I couldn't do it. So distributors want their input. Even if you look at Out of the Fight poster that is on Amazon Prime, it's a terrible poster, but they did it. And I'm like, look, you left off the main female character, which is the wife that is really the driving force behind the prevention of these suicides. Right. So, yeah, when you deal with distributors, investors, not so much. Investors trust you. So you work with investors. They've seen your work. They kind of trust you. But when you start getting closer to your deliverables and things like that, they'll want to say, okay, well, X this out or X this out. And, I'll listen to some of it. But if it's something like Out of the Fight, no, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to do it the way that they want it done. But yeah, you just you learn what you can do and cannot do, and there's a middle ground there somewhere.
Right, and you brought up a good point too. With this film, because first of all, it touches on a very serious, matter with the veterans committing suicide. That's a serious issue, and so you want to keep it accurate. You want to keep it, realistic because it's there to reach a certain audience, and then having a distribution company come in when I'll say Hollywood, but kind of put their spin on it. It makes a difference. It makes a difference in a film. Yep. So to be able to navigate that, it seems like that's a tough minefield to try to navigate.
It is, and if you do it their way, and they promise you, we can give you a bigger minimum guarantee, which is called an MG in the business, on your return, and it's not worth that. It's not worth that compromise because, like you said, there's a specific audience, and we have reached that audience all the way up to where people at the Pentagon were like, we want to use this film to show our veterans, all 55 VAs across the country. I thought there were 50, but there are 55. Want to use that to show, and I guess they are. Showing their veterans. The Gary Sinise Foundation had approached us right after we did the film, but this was when COVID happened. The film was supposed to open an event in New York for them. So, all right, I'm down to 20%. I may have to go get a charger. But anyway, let's keep going.
So let me ask you this. During this, with the switchover, what's the biggest lesson you learned?
The biggest lesson in the business,
Right.
you know what? A lot of people might disagree with what I'm about to say, but humility, because up until just about a month or two ago, because Ginger knows me, I will talk a lot and I will get excited about what I want to do, and sometimes that comes across as bragging and arrogant, which I never mean it that way, because I'm the most insecure, shy. It's not about me. I still talk to God and like, God, how me? Why am I doing this? What's I don't belong in this. I'm just some Joe Schmuck from the wrong side of the tracks that is blessed to be in the business, because, I've been doing this full time since '08. But I started getting it in my head. I bring a lot of movies to Alabama, or I have brought a lot of movies to Alabama, and I kind of created, now it sounds bad, but I kind of created an industry, especially in Birmingham, because there was nothing going on until Richie and his friends came here. It was all just small stuff. Right. And sometimes there will be situations where there's projects here that I'm not involved with, and I'll be like, oh, wait, well, it wouldn't be here if it weren't for me. But then I think Ginger one night was praying. I know she was, because I think we were praying for each other, and we both had like epiphanies overnight. And I was like, well, Ginger, I think mine is I just have to shut up. I just have to be like, okay, I did what I did, but that's over and done with, and it's great. And if it's thriving and if people are working, that's fine. So my biggest lesson is, you know what, just keep your mouth closed, which is hard for me to do. But other than that, learning, the biggest thing that I have learned is it's all just like any other job. It's, I've had some people that are Christians that are like, well, how can you be in the film business if you're a Christian? I'm like, okay, well, how are you a doctor? I mean, if you're going to hold me to that same standard, why aren't you a preacher? Why aren't you I've been a youth director. I've led, don't know if I've led people to Christ, but I have witnessed. So it's like, we can be light in a dark world. And there's an actor, I won't say his name in case he ever watches this, but he and I are good friends. He's been around for years, decades. And one day I was wearing a shirt that said the original Old Navy, 12 disciples, one savior, and one boat. And he came up to me and he said, hey, Moon, I have that same shirt. And he's from Hollywood. He lives in Hollywood, and he's a known actor. Right. So you never know, just by doing that even with crew looking at what you're wearing, they know that there's a light in there somewhere and that you're illuminating that light. So, but no, you just learn how to, you learn. Here's a big lesson. The smaller the producer / director, I have a DSLR camera and I'm the biggest ego I've ever seen. But then you can work with people like the director of photography from Pulp Fiction. And he's like, oh yeah, call me if you ever need anything. I'm like, okay, wow. So you learn that, again, nobody's small and nobody's big. We're all the same. But the people that think they're the biggest are the ones that have done, I call it nothing. Okay, you're doing this as a hobby. I'm not knocking you. Do it as a hobby, but you know what? Keep that in check. Right.
And, like you said, you're only as good as your last film, too. Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to treat people right. And you have to treat people right. You don't throw people under the bus. Right. You in the business, for longevity in the business on like the quote unquote Hollywood films, because they called me like, hey, Moon, can you produce a Bruce Willis, or help produce? No, they said produce. Hey, can you and your crew produce a Bruce Willis show? I'm like, yeah, this was like a year and a half ago or so. I'm like, yeah, come on in. So the producers come in. I just hook them up with locations, cast, set up the production office, introduce them to the state for film office, but usually they already do that anyway. But it's an honor because you've worked hard to get to that level, but then you realize it's no different. It's no different than when we did Diamond. Right. Diamond was the one that Ginger was in, where she played the 70s era rock star. And we produced that the same exact way as if we were doing a Bruce Willis show. So you learn that it's just work, whether you're a surgeon in the biggest hospital in the world, or you're a surgeon on the front in Afghanistan, you're still doing what you're doing.
Right. And to your credit too, meeting, I've got to meet a lot of people doing this show, and I've ran into some pretty big actors who are just the nicest people, just awesome people. I've met Mike McGlone, Sean Cronin, just awesome people you wouldn't expect. That would give you that kind of time, especially someone like me that's just a small-time YouTuber that's out doing it. Awesome people. So that's the thing too. I think people put these actors on pedestals, but they don't realize they're regular people just like you and I. And I've met several of them, and just super nice people. You got to meet Ginger the same way, and the cool thing about with meeting Ginger is that Ginger, since I've interviewed her, you've done a couple of films since then, since the Jesus Revolution.
Yeah, I don't even know what all ones that I've worked on since you interviewed me, but yeah, I've been constantly busy doing stuff.
Yeah, so you guys just wrapped up a film. What film did you guys? You said you did two of them, didn't you?
Did we do two? Yeah, I think we did two. Might have been three. Well, we did Diamond, but then we did two more, right? Oh my gosh, I can't keep up.
Well, like Love for the Cold, we had already done that one before the day that you interviewed me, but I don't know if we talked about it or not. Where I was playing a woman who was on her last journey. She had cancer, and he did it to where we were trying to involve all 50 states in the film.
Wow.
That was one that we both did recently together.
She did beautiful too. She was amazing in that.
Cool. Yeah, I've seen all the pictures that she's been posting, from being on the set. You just look like you have a blast.
Oh yeah.
You look like
it's amazing to watch the transformation too, to go from Ginger to the actual characters, because each one is so different.
Oh wow, yeah, and I'm waiting. I would love to see these. I'm trying to go. I still haven't seen the Jesus Revolution, and I'm still trying to get out there to go see that.
You said you still haven't seen it.
I know. Last time I talked, I said I was going to go see it. I still haven't seen it yet. I have this 9-to-5 job that keeps calling me to come to work.
Well, I better hurry up.
Yeah, definitely want to go see that. And then hopefully, I told you that the casting department reached out to me from Chosen.
They did.
Yeah, and so did Chad Gunderson's, one of the producers people. So it looks like we may have Chad on the show. So,
that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, what I'd love to do is be able to do the show live on the set of The Chosen.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So, I'm excited. So, Steve, let me ask you this. For somebody who's trying to get into, directing and producing, or those who's been doing it on the independent side, what advice could you give them to help them break through from the independent to work with some of the bigger production companies?
Two things that come to mind right off. Number one, my biggest advice is just keep working. Don't feel like, I don't have the right gear, I don't have the right camera. I just distributed one through Amazon Prime and Tubi, which Tubi is kind of relatively easy to get on, but it's a good platform. But we did one on our camera. I just shot it at 4K, 24 frames per second on my phone, not my camera, on my phone, and you just do quality. So just do quality. It does not have to be, and we only had one light. We had three people on crew, including me. And so we had 2 crew members, a director, 1 actress, and 1 light for the entire movie.
Wow.
Just do quality, but also network. Don't be afraid to be a PA, because here's the biggest thing that frustrates me is let's say, for example, and I'll use Birmingham, but I'm not going to give names, but it's going to be, I direct commercials, or I do this. I make $750 a day shooting commercials, and no, there's no way that I'm going to pull focus or be a second AC, which does the clapper and does all the notes and everything for DIT, because they're so big. Okay, that's great. Nobody's knocking you, but if you want to get into the business, whether you want to be a director of photography, well, I'm already a director of photography. Okay, but you're going to get a chance to work with some of the best DPs in the business that have been doing this 30 and 40 years, that love passing not the buck, passing it down, right, because they're always looking for somebody. Like, let's say that Joe Walker, he's my director of photography for most of my shows. He's busy now. Joe, you're too busy for me. Oh no, quick. Hey, Jason Patrick, you know I love you, man. I have to say hey to Jason. I'll send him the link to this. Jason is one of the best. He is the best person I've ever met. Jason, you're a man of God, and you're a good person. Anyway, so that's Jason.
Best person you've ever met besides me.
Oh, besides Ginger, is there anybody besides Ginger? But no, it's just do the work, because like Joe Walker, I'll get phone calls from like Richie and say, hey, is Joe available? Because so-and-so is the director of photography, but he wants to work with Joe because he worked with Joe last time. So that gets Joe on a bigger name show that gets his work out there. And then ultimately somebody that may say, hey, let's get Joe to be the DP for this. And it's the same for any crew member. Well, I'm not going to be a PA because, you know, I just did a short that went to Toronto. Well, that's great. I'm glad you did a short. But what did that do for you? So be humble enough to just take, because I do props, I do art, I still do on-set dresser. I'll work whatever job the show needs me to do, because I'll still do my own. I'll still direct and produce my own. But now people have seen my work, and I could probably get a job directing Mickey Rourke. You know, I could probably get a job. Jason Patrick, when are we going to do something together? Hey, I said your name again. You owe me, buddy. So anyway, just take the job that's out there, and when it comes to your town, take the job. I don't care if you own your own production company.
Right.
If they say, hey, we need a PA out here, go be a PA, meet people, because it's such a small industry. Everybody knows everybody. And if you're honest, if you're loyal, and I don't mean loyal to a fault. If you see somebody doing something wrong, obviously go through the channel and express, hey, this is what I've seen that's going wrong. But other than that, you stay loyal. Don't throw anybody on the bus, and you have longevity, and eventually it's going to pay off for you.
Right. You know, and you know, to that fact, some of the people that I've talked to, you know, that's in the industry said that's how they learned is they started off doing lighting or camera or, you know, BTS pictures or, you know, but the thing is that every time you get on a set, even if you don't get as an actor, they always want to be able to do something on that set because they're always learning. Because you're always learning a different aspect. You might learn lighting one day. You might learn cameras, you know. And then when you do your own film, you have that experience from working with other people on their films.
Can I share a quick story? Because I probably have about 5 more minutes, and I don't even think I'm going to make it to the gas station because I'm down to 10% now. But I have to share this story because the way God works, everybody says, okay, you know, when you talk about God and miracles and things like that, people want to see a miracle. I tell Ginger this before, or I've told her before, is like they want to see Peter walk on water. That's the miracle that they want to see. But the miracle is Ginger sitting right here with me and you, because I met her on the set where she was doing background or stand-in work. And all of a sudden now we're working together and our films are out there and we're talking to you. But here's the story that I want to share. Here's how God works. So I was working on the show with Jason Patrick. Again, I'm saying your name. I'm not. Oh, and it's not dropping names in the business. Oh my gosh, it's like if you're an accountant or go back to being a physician. If you're a surgeon, you're not dropping the names of the hospitals you worked at. You are giving your resume. So in this business, you have to give your resume to get work. I guarantee you, if I talk to Richie and say, "Hey, yeah, I just got through working with Bruce Willis," he doesn't think I'm dropping the name. He's like, "Okay, good. I've got another show with somebody even bigger. I'll hire you." But anyway, I say all this to say this. We had a little intern girl from University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Her name is Montana. Sharp as a tack, probably 19 years old at the time. We were shooting a show called Truth or Dare in Bessemer, Alabama. So she's working in the office, but I could tell she wants to do more. And I'm like, well, this is my buddy's show. This is Richie's. Come on to set. She's like, really? I can come to set? So I'm like, yeah, come on. So she hangs out with me on set, gets to know Richie. Richie is absolutely fond of her passion and everything that she's doing. So then when we do another show, and that's the one that we did in Tuscaloosa, we were doing one that Peter Fasinelli was directing. Peter Fasinelli happened to be her favorite person ever. He was in Twilight, I believe. I think he was the dad in that. So they got kind of off schedule a little bit. So Peter was like, hey, Moon gets me on radio. Can you do second unit and get it ready for me? I'm still filming on the RV, but I need somebody that can set up for me inside the other location. So I call Montana. I'm like, hey, Montana, can you come down here? We're in Tuscaloosa. I need some help. Can you set up this shot? Long story short, when she found out it was Peter Fasinelli, I didn't even know that she loved him. She showed me a picture of him 12 years ago at the time at the premiere of Twilight.
Wow.
He's kissing her when she's like 11 years old on the cheek. And I
Right.
said, no, Peter's right there. He's just on the other set. You and I are blocking this entire scene for Peter. So now she's freaking out. She's like, wait, I'm blocking the scene, which means I'm setting up everything. So when Peter comes in here, we're ready to roll cameras. So Peter
Right.
comes in, getting ready. He's all stressed because, we're running behind. And I'm not a producer on this. I'm just helping out. And so he's like, yeah, let's see what you got. And so Montana, I made her show him the blocking. And he said, that's great. Let's shoot it. Bring in cameras. So she's freaking out now that, hey, wow, Peter's shooting the scene that I designed. This is great. And then I said, oh, wait, Peter, real quick, look at this picture. So I showed him the picture on her phone of him kissing her 12 years ago on the cheek. And I said, can we do that again? And so 12 years later, we take the same identical photo. Wow. And here it is, Montana, probably at that time, maybe 20 at that time, with her hero. And there's no other way to explain. She may not be a believer. And, I may never be able to explain to her that was a miracle, but that was not by chance. And for her to do that, and now she's working full-time in the business because she was honest. She was loyal. She tried not to be a fangirl. And ultimately, she wasn't. Ultimately, she was about the work and how that scene turned out. And she will always have that under her belt. And that's what I like to do. I like to do that for people because it's never about me, even though it might sound like it is.
Right.
I don't care what I do. If I can see somebody else smile, if I can bring a smile to somebody's face, if I can do one or two things that just make somebody just grin and, whatever, then it's worth it. It's worth it just to watch them, just sometimes just sit right there and just enjoy it.
Right. And I don't believe in chances, you know what I mean? Where things just happen. I believe everything has been designed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So God's already planned your whole life ahead of you. So he
can use you anywhere. I was at Rock and Roll Sushi, eating at the bar, probably watching a hockey game or something. And one of the manager that we're friends with, she was asking like, hey, what's the next show you're working on? So I told her, and here's this guy, 22 years old, just graduated. And he's like, I didn't mean to overhear, but you're talking about film. I've been trying to get into film. And so I brought him in one of the shows and he kind of PA'd. And now he is the second boom operator. When Patrick's not working in Birmingham, Joe's working. And now there's enough shows in town that they're both working. And that's, if God can use you even sitting in a bar, watching a hockey game, what are the chances that Joe's there? I could have picked any restaurant. He could have picked any restaurant, but he heard us talking and now he's in the business full time.
Wow. Yeah. I totally believe that. I believe, sometimes you go through things and you're like, why did I have to go through that? But it's always part of a bigger plan that you never, expected. But sometimes down the road, like Montana, eventually you start realizing that things don't just happen. It's not, it's not by chance that things happen. So
exactly.
That's a great example of that. So before we lose you, because I know your battery's dying, how could people get a hold of you and follow you on social media and see some of the projects you're working on?
You can find me on Facebook. It's Steve Moon, and it's got a picture of my daughter. I'm wearing a hat because I always wear a hat, and it'll say UAB. That's where I went to school. Just send me a friend request, and eventually I will get to it. I'm not too busy for it. It's just that sometimes I just forget that it's out there. But shoot me a message. If you're friends with Ginger knows how to reach me. Send me a message. Go to my IMDb. Obviously, I'm Steve Moon, I'm number 5, but it's the first one that pops up. It says Out of the Fight. So that's me. But yeah, find me on Facebook. And I'll help anybody. I mean, I don't care what it is. And if I have a show that's coming to town, like if Richie comes back and you want to come on set and learn, if I know you and I trust you, yeah, come on. I'll just bring you on set and you can just watch.
Awesome. That's cool. And then the other thing I'm going to say is for somebody who's wanting to see some of your projects, I know you said you have some on Amazon and some on Tubi. What's the one that you recommend the most that somebody goes and watch?
Right now, Out of the Fight. I want people to watch that because it is making such an impact. It's just everything that you see in there is true. And even the combat scenes are all combat veterans from Mississippi. So Out of the Fight is good. Like Gloves for the Cold will be out there soon, hopefully on Amazon. That's the 50-state project that she and I did, that Ginger and I did together. That's going to be out there. Ginger, what else? What do you think? Because we only have like 2 or 3 that are out there. I don't want to mention one of them.
Yeah. I don't know what all you have out.
The one that's out there, Rockslide. Rockslide. Please watch Rockslide on Tubi. It's almost on Amazon Prime. We're just waiting on the details. But Rockslide is the one that we filmed in one day with my phone with 2 graduates from Birmingham Southern College who are now working full-time in the business. Wow. And, I say full-time. Whenever there's a show that comes to town, they're working on that show. Right. And you can see what can be done. And, I'll make fun of Tubi, because Tubi is like the jack of all trades, send it to Tubi, they'll take it. But you know what? It's revenue, and basically it's a business like anything else. You want a revenue stream. But Rockslide is good, and it's all locals, and it sets a small standard, but it sets a standard. But like Gloves for the Cold will be the next one. That's the one that Ginger and I did. Diamond, we're working on distribution, will be the next one if we do another interview.
Cool.
Because I want her to talk all about Diamond, because Diamond was just such a beautiful, just a beautiful story. But yeah, Out of the Fight, and then what I say,
Rockslide.
Rockslide. Yep.
Cool. So definitely go check those out. And then what I'll do is we'll put the names of the movies on the link to the show.
Okay.
And so to get people to go out there and see them, I'm definitely gonna go watch them.
I have one thing quick to say.
Go ahead.
Can we say the other one, Ginger, that we're about to start? Do we plug that at all, or just keep that under wraps?
It's up to you.
No, it's up to you.
Fine, that's fine with me. Yeah.
All right, I'm turning it over to you, because this is all about you.
No, you explain. You came up with it.
Well, no, I'm not going to tell the whole thing. All right, go to Ginger's Facebook page and look at the posters and what she is talking about. DAH, D-A-H. DAH, I'm going to push myself, and I'm going to push Ginger. I don't think it's ever been done. I'm not going to say the nature of the story, other than she does have a slight handicap that we're bringing awareness to. That's an inside joke. Anyway, wow. But she does have a slight handicap, and I don't think that handicap has ever really been pushed to the degree that we are going to push it on screen. And she has defined, we call it the voice. When you find the voice of a character, it's not what you sound like. It's the soul of the character. But the irony is she's got to find the voice of this character. And I don't want to say too much, but keep in touch with DAH. Watch what's going on with DAH, because here's how we're also going to do it. I want to direct DAH with only one actress, and that's her. Everybody else, I want to be just regular Joe. I want to go find her best friend, who is a 70-year-old man, a black man. I want to go down to the coast where we're filming and just, hey, Ginger, that looks like who we want to hire.
Wow.
Do you feel that? And then let Ginger, I like him. Let's bring him on.
Wow.
Get him. I want to give him a hug.
Oh. Yeah, everybody gets hugs, but, the director's just out here. Yeah. Oh, pretty people. Oh, pretty people. Hi, I've been in this movie as blah, blah, blah. I did an interview that got more likes than anyway. So pretty people. Are you going to edit that part out? Us non-pretty people have to work a little harder. Huh?
Okay, so that was his explanation of the show. It's going to be really good.
Yep.
I cannot wait. Yes.
I'm sorry, Ginger. Ginger, don't hate me. Don't hate me.
I mean,
it's too late for that. But yeah, so DAH is the next one that I can't wait. Ginger and I are doing another one coming up possibly in about 2 weeks, where she plays the mom. Because I like doing tragedy and drama. She plays the mom of her daughter or son. We're still debating on that. Was killed in a robbery that went bad, but she has to find forgiveness for the person that's in jail that was behind the robbery. And everything takes place inside the jail area where did we lose him? I think we lost him.
I don't know if he's lost.
All right, so I'm still going. So, because I'm probably about to die now, but I'll keep going. So she's going to be sitting in the jail area where she's on the phone, but there's the little plexiglass partition, and she's talking to the man who ultimately was responsible for the death in the robbery of her child. We'll just call it her kid. So that's on next. And I feel like I'm just talking to you now, Ginger. So
I know. I don't know if you are or not. You might be.
So how do we wrap this up? Do you and I wrap this up now, or what?
I guess yes.
Okay. Well,
so if y'all want more information on the movies, I'm the one that always posts the stuff. So make sure you get on my page and follow, because that's where all the information usually is about the projects that we're doing together. And really the things that he does without me always end up on my page too, somehow, for some reason.
well, I get more likes if I put it on Ginger's page. I don't know. There's something about me that people just want, again, there it is.
Oh, he said, hold on, I got kicked out.
Okay.
So I think he's going to be rejoining us in a second.
I will probably be off at that point. So we'll stay with him. And then I'm going to drive over to where everybody's eating, but not yet. Ginger, I was just kidding about that. Please don't hate me. Don't hate me. You're awesome. You are awesome. No, he can edit that out.
No, he can't, because this is live. Everyone, hi.
Oh, all right. Oh, hey, I have my spree. Yum.
You have spree. You should have a phone charger.
No, I can't believe it's not in here. What did I had it when I was going down. Are we talking about work still? So
yeah. So
when
tell
we
them
were filming last, it was in my car. So I don't know if I put it in the Jeep or not. So, but back to Ginger. Ginger is super talented. Ginger is going to go far. Ginger is, and this is for the show that we're doing now, the YouTube show. Ginger is somebody that I would not have a problem that if I were talking to, let's say, like a Mickey Rourke and say, hey, here's this actress I've worked with before. Here's her reel. This is some of the work that we've done together. 50% of it, oh, you've worked with her, bring your own. And then 50% of it is also the talent that she has, because obviously he's not going to work with her if he doesn't have talent. But Ginger has what it takes, that even on like a John Travolta show, I would have no problem whatsoever going up and saying, hey, JT, yeah, 5 minutes, check her out. I think she'd be, well, I couldn't recommend anything obviously like that, but I wouldn't have a problem showing any of the actors that I've worked with in the past. Just, hey, what do you think of this person? Because you stay in touch with, sometimes it's their management or sometimes it's them directly. And it's a business, but it's also a friendship. It's like any other job.
See, I love how he can just sit here and talk and continue the show.
So, Ginger, tell us about your experience on the last show that you worked with director Steve Moon. How was that? How did that show go?
Oh, it went great. It was a wonderful time. I enjoyed every minute of it. We had lots of laughs and enjoyment.
We did have lots of laughs. It was fun because it was a comedy.
Yeah. And I got to be pretty. What you guys don't know, if you ever end up seeing this and he doesn't chop off the end of the show, is that he never lets me be a pretty character.
No, I mean, you were definitely pretty in like Gloves for the Cold, and Ginger didn't describe it enough. All 50 states were involved. We're still working on post-production for a few other states. But when you watch the movie, like Gloves for the Cold, she is dying of cancer. She wants to travel the country and not die at home under hospice, but she wants to travel the country. So what we did is we involved one person from each of the 50 states. Some were actors that met Ginger's character along the way. But what we did is whoever filmed Ginger shot this direction. And let's say she's in North Carolina and she's talking to the other person. Well, that actor sets up her own camera and she does the opposite of that. So you multiply that times 50, and it's 50 people that have never met. Some people are doing Foley, which is background noise. Some people are doing establishing shots. But the whole thing ties together, and you would never know it was not one single crew just filming it in one location. So I don't think that's ever been done.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there you go. That was the technical description of the movie. No, I did not say all of that, but there's more information.
But your character was beautiful, and I would like to know before my phone runs out, how did you find the voice of that character? Because you and I hadn't worked together really at all, except for that.
Yeah.
So
well, with that one I was drawing from. Oh, hey, he's back. Hello.
So, I don't know what happened. For some reason, the program kicked me out. So I had to get back on my phone.
We're kind of rapping for you now before my phone goes out.
I was going to say, with that character, I was thinking about, because, my mom was sick for a lot of years. So I thought honestly about her personality and her ability to keep going and her joy despite her circumstances. And now my phone's also trying to die. So.
All right. Well, let's resume. Let's do this again sometime soon.
Cool. So, thank you guys so much for being on. What we will do
is we'll get back together. And you have the film about to come out. So once the film comes out, and then I want to get with have you back on, Ginger, when I see the Jesus Revolution.
Okay.
So we can talk about that. So I will bring you back on, and then I'll give you my movie review.
Oh, goodness. Sounds good.
Well, cool. But thank you guys. I apologize. I don't know what happened with the program, but
No worries. We
guys.
kept it going.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys. I thank you guys so much for being on the show today.
Thank you
It
for
was a lot
having
of
me,
fun.
both of us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get to know you guys, Steve, and get to see Ginger again. So awesome. So guys, until next time, remember, you are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having both of us. Ginger, thank you for working this out too. Thank you.
Hey, not a problem at all. And we'll bring you guys back. So
Sounds
Awesome.
good. Thank you.
cool.
All right. Be blessed.
You guys have a good night.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.